welcome back to another Lestat episode of House of R. I'm Joanna Robinson, and excuse me, it's Mallory Rubin.
Oh, the little wee homie. Are you enjoying this exclusive fan experience?
I think you know I am. Hello.
Oh, wow.
This is the Vampire Lestat episode 2.
Yes.
Mallory's wearing normal clothes. I have become more unhinged, and this is what you can expect from our season of coverage of the Vampire Lestat. Can I see through these glasses? Not really, but we're going to do our best.
Commitment to content and to your deep and abiding passion for Lestat and for the vampire lore in general. The question is, and it's on everyone's mind, will you, for the finale, do the entire podcast in fangs?
We'll see. I did a trial run of it for our D&D campaign that we did, and there were some issues. But
you have a few weeks to file them down.
To refine the process. You'll be able to see the fangs in the thumbnail. But for now, it's not part of the podcasting experience. We're going to get to a fangless, yet very bloody and vampire-y deep dive into episode 2, plus a very exciting announcement right after this.
This episode of House of R is presented to you by Target. For 30 years, Pokemon has shown that adventures are better together, and Target is calling all trainers to the celebration.
That's because there's something for every era of fan in the Pokemon and Target limited time collection.
Thought you found them all after the first drop? Think again.
Drop 2 just landed, featuring life-size Pokemon puzzles and an instant print digital camera.
The entire collection is in store and online, so check it out now.
Explore now at Target.com. Okay, quick program reminders. To justify the purchase of this coat, we will be covering the Vampire Lestat every single week.
Yes.
This is episode 2. We've got 5 more weeks to go. Whew. Very exciting. We've got another Nolan episode that we are recording tomorrow. We were trying to keep the guest a secret, but I guess the Midnight Boys just dropped it on their pod. So Eric Voss, unless something happens, our pal Eric Voss of New Rockstars will be joining us.
Crossover event.
I know. We're really excited for that. We've long wanted to have Eric on the pod. And then House of the Dragon is here.
It's time.
It's time. Talk the Thrones.
Can't wait.
On Sunday night with CR, and then the deep dives on Tuesday. And these Vampire Lestat episodes will be coming out in the middle of those is sort of the current plan. So
Supergirl around the corner. Busy summer ahead. We're having a blast.
That's not all we're doing this summer. Okay, we teased, we hinted, and now we can share. Mallory Rubin is returning home to Baltimore, and she's taking all of us with her.
My wildest dreams are coming true. House of R night at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, folks. We can officially announce, I will repeat, House of R night at Oriole Park at Camden Yards this summer, Thursday, August 20th, against the New York Yankees. House of R night at Oriole Park at Camden Yards.
So join us.
Yes.
We're doing a pregame live show.
That's right.
And then you can hang out with us.
You can.
In the Pure Wager Pavilion during the game to watch the O's take on, once again, we repeat, the New York Yankees. Have you heard of them lots? So when are tickets going on sale?
Thanks for asking. Tickets go on sale tomorrow, Tuesday, June 16th, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
Out here, that's 7 a.m. Pacific, as I understand it. Get online. We're going to have the information on social, on the @House of R pod handles. You'll be able to find it there. Orioles.com/House of R. We have our own URL. This is nuts. Orioles.com/House of R. You will be able to find the special event ticket for our pregame live pod and the in-game watch-along at the Pure Wager Pavilion. Come hang with us. And guess what? There's another little special treat because I'm throwing the first pitch.
Yeah, this wasn't in the copy here, so I wasn't sure if we were announcing it. But Mallory Rubin is throwing out the first pitch of an Orioles game against, once again, the New York Yankees.
Unbelievable.
But more importantly, the Baltimore Orioles.
That's right.
Are you going to put some Old Bay in your mitt in order to sort of don't they use
some sticky stuff? Some sticky stuff. You know, I think it's an open question. What pitch will I throw?
Yeah.
You know, will I be working out of a windup? My main goals. Well, I don't know if I have a slider. I mean, maybe like a knuckle curve.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Maybe just some high heat. Perhaps a sweeper. That's the pitch of the moment. Here are my main goals. Don't just literally fall over.
Yeah.
And I think right up there, 1A, 1B is I don't want to spike the ball directly into the ground.
No, let's get a few feet in front of you at least, and then into the ground.
Like, go aerial. You know,
Yeah.
if I go 10 feet wide, 50 feet wide, that's fine. You know, do
Doesn't
I
have to
expect to
cross-
be able to throw the ball 60 feet? Not necessarily.
Okay, it doesn't have to cross over the top of home plate, but maybe hopefully like at least
I'm not
until-
expecting my ball, that my first pitch to be so in the zone that
latitude more
someone's
than
like,
longitude that we are worried about here.
I'm not going to be in the ABS challenge zone.
No.
I don't think.
Maybe.
But I have a couple months of training ahead of me, so who knows? So again,
You've been saying this for a couple months. Have you been training?
I purchased a glove, as you know.
You did.
In my homeland of Baltimore, felt appropriate. Got a little kind of like foam training ball, been, just kind of working on some mechanics,
Ooh.
so getting the arm limber, and asked Adam the other day, I said, man, I think my arm strength is like a lot better than I anticipated. How far was that throw? And he got out a tape measure and everything, and he looked at me and he said, 10 feet. So I think I have a ways to go, but that's okay.
But aren't you allowed to throw it like close? Aren't you allowed to
You
inch
don't
up
have to stand on the
plate?
mound.
Yeah.
You don't have to stand, but maybe I will.
Okay.
You know what? It's all about the fun and the joy of the experience. The first pitch is like the highlight of a lifetime. You know what else is the highlight of a lifetime? Getting to do a podcast at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, and then getting to do a watch along with the Bad Babies
I know.
during a baseball game,
So
during an
come-
O's game.
Come hang out with
Unbelievable.
us. August 20th.
Sharing this with you,
I
the
know.
#1 sports fan in my life.
No one knows more about baseball than I do.
Incredible.
So, Orioles.com/House of Art. When you last took me to an Orioles game, which was in Oakland, California a couple years ago,
That's
did you
right.
imagine the next time we watched an Orioles game together, it would be House of Art night at Camden Yards and you would be throwing out the first pitch?
Didn't occur to me, to
Nope.
be honest.
Are we getting like, I heard
Jerseys?
we might get jerseys
Custom
with our
jerseys?
names on them.
I would anticipate jerseys. I think you start planning out your in-game meal. Get you some Boog's barbecue. You know, a little lemonade, cotton candy, soft serve.
So if you
crab
want
cake.
okay, if you want to get a stomach ache,
Sounds wonderful.
watch Mallory explain all of baseball to me, which people did at the Oakland A's Stadium last time we went to a game
A
together.
blast.
Join us.
Join us.
Tickets go on sale again tomorrow, June 16th, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific.
Yes.
Orioles.com/House of R.
Pre-game pod, in-game watch along. Come hang.
Okay, I think we did it. We did it.
Fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
What a treat. What
Can you
a
imagine
treat. Surreal.
A summer starting with the Vampire Lestat for moi
Indeed.
and ending with an Orioles game for
Oh my
Mallory.
goodness.
It's our year.
Unbelievable. It really is.
It's our year.
House of our summer.
Spoiler warning.
Yes.
Informed by our knowledge of the book, The Vampire Lestat
Your
and Queen
knowledge
of the
of the
Dam,
book, yeah.
and some stuff that I've heard about from other Anne Rice books, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Informed by my knowledge.
That's right. I have no knowledge.
Well, you knew something big just by Googling last week.
Mhm.
So, you know, what things you have gleaned from the
Yeah.
internet, et
Googled
cetera,
a
et cetera.
character name, and there it
And
was.
There they were, the spoilers. Okay. But we're not going to get into like hardcore book spoiler territory until a very special section at the end. You will hear a sound cue, or if you're watching the video, there's a fun little animation that will play. But we will be very, very clear about what we are doing here. Should we start with our opening snapshot?
Let's do it.
All right. So great, robust. Honestly, the Bad Babies are dialed into the Vampire Lestat, and that's very exciting. We also got a lot of people emailing in about their Disclosure Day thoughts, because we had asked the Bad Babies after we did our Disclosure Day podcast at the end of last week, sort of if they enjoyed it. You know what? True to form of the internet, a mixed bag.
Yeah.
A whole spectrum of people. Some people loved it. Some people couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who, like, I think us are like sort of more in the in-between spot between those two stances. But thank you so much for writing in about that, and also about Vampons. Several people emailed to let us know that Vampons, which was a great joke in episode 1, is an ongoing thing with AMC and this television series, because I guess they actually like had them, sold them perhaps on the AMC store, had them at various like premiere parties.
Yeah. Sold them for like use, or for like putting on your shelf as a joke?
I think they were just tampons that had like packaging.
A special label.
Yeah,
Yeah.
special packaging on
Okay.
it. Fun merch. Merch you can use, and we love that.
Yeah. There you go. Very practical.
It's also a reference to an insane scene in the book Memnoch the Devil, where I'm just going to spoil this.
Okay.
Lestat pauses mid-coitus to consume the menstrual blood of the lady that he is hooking up with. It's very special stuff, Anne Rice. Very, very special. Thanks to all of you who emailed me about it.
Fantastic.
Great stuff.
Okay.
Thanks, Anne Rice. All right. Alexander wrote in to say, in the opening scene of Detroit, she wrote, I half expected the auctioneer to say, a papier-mâché musical box. Shout out lot 665. That's a Phantom of the Opera reference. And I agree. Like, I was thinking the same thing. I just didn't want to go like already like so vampire nerdy. Do I need to go musical theater nerdy at the same time? But here we are.
Be your fullest self always.
The Phantom of the Opera musical starts with an auction about a character who is like deceased and, and takes you back in time. And so this sort of very dramatic, and that's when like, we have the chandelier and all that sort of stuff like that. So like, to have open with these auction house, very, very campy, very Andrew Lloyd Webber, very Lestat. I love this as a potential reference. But
Fantastic.
Yeah. Lot 665. All right. Malcolm wrote in to let us know that the joke last week, the story that Christine told about Stuart Copeland, member of the police, in a kufi with ammo, like, et cetera, let us know that Stuart Copeland's father, Miles, was a spy during World War II and a founding member of the CIA, and his mother was a spy too. Does this movie exist? I would watch it. Like, a husband and wife, founding members of the CIA team. Because of this, Stuart Copeland, rock star, grew up in Cairo until he was 5 years old, at which point the family moved to Beirut until he was 12. In short, of all the rock stars to wander in on a UN peacekeeper in Mogadishu with a kufi and ammo, Stuart Copeland makes perhaps the most sense. In fact, it's possible that the writers are even suggesting in this alternate universe that Copeland continued in the family business spycraft. So
interesting. Are they, by extension, suggesting that everyone in the CIA is a vampire?
Why not?
Great.
Not great. I don't know that I want those CIA folks to be immortal. Vampire Spy sounds great.
Would be very cool. I mean, obviously, it would limit, unless you were a daywalker, what you could get done in more traditional business hours.
Nighttime spying only. How much does James Bond get done during the day, really?
Yeah, let's check in with Jackson Lamb.
Yes.
And the slow horses. Mostly at noodle bars during the day.
I mean, Gary Oldman, iconic cinematic vampire.
That's right, of course.
All right, Baxter wrote into something I really should have picked up. They make this truthful and daring reference to Daniel's doc. And Baxter's like, this is obviously a reference to Madonna's Truth or Dare documentary. Have you seen this documentary?
No.
Incredible piece of 90s ephemera. Madonna, Truth or Dare, backstage tour stuff. Watching her, I should send you the clip of when Kevin Costner comes backstage to the Truth or Dare tour, because he is like so earnest and telling Madonna how much he loved her show.
I bet.
And she thinks he is such, he's wearing like classic 90s Costner like dad jeans and all sort of stuff like that. Looks, you'll love him. He looks so handsome. But he walks away and she's just basically like, what a fucking dweeb. What a square.
Incredible.
What a nerd. This guy. It's really funny.
I love it.
There's also a reference in that episode to like with Les Warren Beatty about the documentary. So this is like obviously a Madonna reference.
Crossover event with Bandsplain. Get Yasi in here during Madonna month.
Absolutely. Yasi will come in costume. I feel like this is kind of inspired by Yasi leaning all the way in on the Madonna photo shoot. You know what I mean? Yasi is an inspiration to all of us.
I
think
quite
you know
agree.
that.
I quite agree.
That. All right. Jessa wrote in to say, very reasonably, I think, I wanted to push back on your comment that we're seeing the, quote, real Lestat this season. I'd argue that the reunion with Louis at the end of season 2 is still the only time we've seen the, quote, real Lestat, because the only time he has existed in the objective lens of the show in season 1 and 2 or in Daniel Armand and Louis' point of view, et cetera, et cetera. But the entirety of season 3, with the exception of the prologue and arguably the few black and white shots we see of Daniel's doc, exists within Lestat's subjective lens, within the framing device of the failures. So we're not watching the real Lestat, we're watching Lestat's Lestat. And Daniel, sorry, Dan, and Louis, and Armand, and Gabriella. So I think Armand, especially Jacob Anderson, talked about this in the scene in this episode, in episode 2, in the legal negotiation scene, when Louis is being like a real asshole. Jacob is like, and I loved it, but like Jacob is like, I kind of lean into the idea that this is Lestat's idea of Louis. And so I would present sort of the most dickish version of that interaction, the most tauntingly touching my new, lover's arm and all this sort of stuff like that. It's like, how would Lestat remember this? And so in season 2 especially, when Louis was like imagining this like ghost Lestat that he imagined at the beginning of season 2. And Sam Reed talked a lot about like, who is Louis' Lestat? And this is like, who is Lestat's Louis that we're watching here, which I think is really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's fairly consistent with what we talked about last pod. That the difference in
we did. I think I made a sort of like we're seeing the real Lestat for the first time, and I kind of agree with our listener that that's not really true. But yeah, you were definitely hammering the like unreliable narrator.
Yeah, now we're getting his version of this, and also the idea of presenting as a showman in order to be able to speak your truth inherently kind of fits with the show's overall interest in examining what you want people to understand about like your truth and how, and it's fun to get the different versions of it across time and circumstance.
Absolutely. She also pointed out this when we were talking about Daniel Malloy as a vampire.
Yes.
And this idea of, you said something like Daniel was made to be a vampire, and I said this is his version of the hunt. He's on the hunt. She sent this passage from Queen of the Damned about sort of Daniel as a vampire. Quote, the building had been crawling with gentle humans who noticed not a thing as they'd stolen the clothes they now wore, uniforms of the young, and left by a broken door into an alley. Not my brothers and sisters anymore. The woods have always been filled with these soft, doe-eyed things, their hearts beating for the arrow, the bullet, the lance. And now at last, I reveal my secret identity. I have always been the huntsman.
Ooh.
So that's from the Devil's Minion, I think, Devil's Minion chapter from Queen of the Damned. But the first time Justice said the first time I read that, I had to put the book down and stare at the wall a while, which is
I love it.
A great reaction. And last but not least, our listeners, Jessica and Suka, and a couple other people in the comments were sort of addressing our question about this moment that Lestat has on stage before he drinks the drugged blood, but he had this sort of like epiphany moment or crisis moment, and we weren't really sure what the cause of that. What was the inspo for that, right? So Jessica wrote in to say, I think it might have been him getting close to what he refers to as the, quote, golden moment that he would have with Nikki when they were young and very drunk, that moment when everything made sense and they were euphoric. I think, though I may be misremembering and I don't have the book here, and it was one of these golden moments that Lestat first conceives of the world as a, quote, savage garden. Yes, that's where the band got the name. I didn't know that.
I love it.
And his savage garden imagery certainly reminds me of his jungle snake language.
Interesting.
So shout out Chicka Cola.
Always.
Shout out Savage
Formative
Garden.
song of our youth.
I love that song. And Suka has this great interpretation. She says, in Detroit, Longface and Black Licorice are songs that Lestat wrote while still avoiding connecting with the humans around him and within himself. The lyrics are fake, and the fans are okay with them, but not feeling it. Longface sucks. I feel really dumb that I like Longface. It feels like everyone agrees that it sucks and the show agrees that it sucks. And I'm like, what a banger. So maybe I have shit taste.
Music is personal.
Longface sucks. He can't fill 800 suits. The moment he realized that letting Larry play what he wants and connecting with him means the music gets better, and the fans also immediately react back, something cracks open. Muses/ghosts from the past flood in, and he's unable to stop them. We guess that from now on, Lestat will start writing music/song lyrics that will reveal bits and pieces of himself. Butterscotch Bitch has lines that give clues of how hurt he is by Louis. And I think this is interesting to go back to what you were just talking about, thinking about this idea of like connection, like letting Larry, poor Patrick from Schitt's Creek, letting Larry actually like play his guitar versus getting on the tambourine.
Yeah.
That's music as collaboration, not music as like dictated by Lestat.
Right.
So Lestat in communion with the world around him rather than in his own isolated space. And I like that as an idea of like, if that pushes him towards more truthful music and more truthful storytelling through his music, then it sort of revisits that idea of like what it means to be truthful in your storytelling. And for like Lestat inside of this failures, who knows how truthful he's being inside of this failures project, but like what is his music going to be revealing about him and his emotional journey that maybe even his own storytelling into the dictaphone or whatever he's using. I doubt it's a dictaphone.
That would be great if it were.
Explains. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. And it's interesting, too, to think of just the very organic evolution, like how much of the initial desire to start crafting the songs and pursuing this rock star life was like an intentional agenda. This is what I can do and what I can say and how, and how much is the organic desire to be able to express something and how much is a melding of the two. But then like what is the balance of those scales as he responds to different stimuli in real time? And then, of course, has like Gabriella back in his life now, or these moments with Louis inside of this episode. There's the, in any aspect of life, and I imagine frontman of a rock band would fit as well. There's like what you intend to do and then what you find yourself doing.
Sure.
Right? So how much is Lestat ever in control of his own impulses, and how much is he guided by the pull of his heart toward?
Definitely me as a podcaster. What do I intend to do and what do I wind up doing?
I mean, there's a reason that we're so drawn to this beautiful man.
We're pretty good at staying on script generally for House of R, but I don't know, when you show up on like the rewatchables and especially like when you're there with like Vanna Bill and stuff like that, what do you intend and what ends up happening? You have no control. You're not in the driver's seat there. So, all right. So this is episode 2, Toledo, or as I imagine Lestat would say, Toledo. I don't know why I said it so Spanishly. Okay. Directed by Craig Zisk, who directed Don't Be Afraid to Start the Tape, as we mentioned, and the season premiere this year. Written by Jonathan, I'm going to say Cheniceros and Kevin Hanna. Could be any kind of pronunciation for that last name, but great writing, Jonathan. Mallory Rubin. Did you like this episode of television?
I did. I didn't like it as much as episode 1, actually.
Same.
I think that this had my favorite scenes of the season so far, the boardroom scene, which like a rare thing where you could see a pretty sizable chunk of something in trailers and then you get it and it's like not only not I've seen this already, but just like the ultimate kind of euphoric, transcendent high. That scene was electric, and there were a couple other really good scenes in the present day timeline of the episode. The flashbacks, like, I didn't love.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Tough for me, who loves a period drama. So I also preferred episode 1, but for people who are sort of disoriented and confused by episode 1, this is a much more linear sort of, even though we do get, it's more traditional flashback structure and a more linear forward movement of the present day story. So hopefully that is like less difficult for people to follow. I thought the flashbacks I love this show, but I will always be honest on this microphone. And I will say, I thought the flashbacks were tough.
Yeah.
Visually very tough, and then sort of like narratively, they're zooming through a lot of stuff. They're really truncating the flashback stuff inside of this episode, and potentially going forward. Everything that I've heard from Moskowitz, one of the writers and producers on the show, and Roland Jones, the showrunner, is that Roland on the official podcast just plainly said budgetary cuts.
Yeah.
And like something we could have all told just by the wigs themselves, honestly.
The wigs are always the tell.
Like genuinely some of the worst I've ever seen. Like really astonishing stuff. I love this show. This was tough.
Yeah.
So, visually, and he was talking about how like they had to set everything basically in that one room.
Yeah.
And they couldn't like do the theater troupe stuff that happens in flashback or do the monastery stuff that happens in flashback because they just had to like, then they had to just like say it instead.
Right.
And so they're just like stuck like doing exposition at the dining room table with $2 and a hot dog to spend on the wig budget. And then Jennifer Ely is doing an insane accent.
I have been very eager to discuss this with you because I'm like,
my beloved Jennifer Ely, like
what am I missing?
Lizzie Bennett, like we love the 90s Pride and Prejudice. She is an icon, a queen.
Sacred text.
And I think her performance is actually like
performance is great.
The accent's insane.
It's given Count Chocula.
It does not sound like anyone who has ever been to Italy, and let alone, and I speak like a very little bit of Italian, but let alone when she starts speaking Italian, I'm just like, literally, what is that? And like, no one has ever said that Sam Reed's French accent is very accurate French by the way of Australia. And I think for all the vampires who have lived for centuries, like their accents can kind of get, and we'll get to like Justin Kirk and what he's doing, which is actually genuinely very entertaining. But the accent choice that Jennifer Ely and et al. Have made for Gabriella here.
Yeah.
First of all, they changed, they made her Italian. She's French in the book. They made her Italian for some reason. And the only reason I could think of was like, maybe she thought she could do a better Italian accent, but like, okay, is that better?
Boy, yeah.
If this was the result of the Italian accent, if they're like, we're going to try an Italian accent, and if this is the result, I do not understand why they wouldn't, I love this show, why they wouldn't, in the modern day, have her super tone it down.
Yeah.
Because like
Right, a bit of a Wanda Maximoff evolution of accent over time.
Louis' accent from his original New Orleans accent to what he sounds like in the present day. Armand has also gone through like an accent transformation. Like it makes a lot of sense for a vampire who's lived hundreds of years to sort of like somewhat lose their original accent as they have existed in the world. But hers is as, thick as bolognese as it ever was. And it's a baffling choice, honestly. Like really strange to me.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't know that about the French in the book. So I wonder then if the choice to go Italian here, because we have that moment then later playing piano in the present day after murdering some waiters. Yeah, exactly. Like one more difference between mother and father and the sides of the family and the home and the choice Lestat made. And obviously one of the interesting things in that element is that he like really comes out Team France in that one, right? Which is like, and you couple that with I seem to be quite jealous of Louis, who I'm looking back at during the concert and then looking at a photo of on the cell phone. And then
shit about Claudia.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Like, that felt a little
bit of a wedge in that moment in a couple of respects. So maybe if that's part of the reason, that's interesting. But yeah, I think I was surprised when Italy was invoked because I was like, is this like supposed to be almost like Transylvanian like cartoon vampire energy like on purpose? But then I guess not. So that the wigs, the concentrated setting, moving through time, but I think it's those are all contributing elements of like a very heightened tone that I think often in the show works beautifully, but didn't quite in this. But for me, it was more like that as a way to then give us, as you said, the exposition dump of moving us really rapidly through time of these key phases of Lestat's life. So then you get to a sequence of like the recurring cabbage bit, the cabbages. And I'm like, I can cabbages. I can tell that Dad and the brothers who have lived, not in the graveyard, I can tell they suck, right? They're not helping the villagers who come to beg for their aid. We'll get to some of the other stuff that we know from the canon. Obviously, these are terrible people, but I'm like, they kind of all seem awful. Like, is Gabriella supposed to seem like a winning personality to me in this stretch? Yeah.
No, I don't think she is.
So then when they viciously murder them, I'm curious where the show thinks we're supposed to be. I understand why Gabriella wants it. I was like, I guess I have enough in those 15 minutes. It's like a third of the episode to get us there for Lestat. But yeah, it just didn't quite have the, like, I totally understand this character's backstory, which is a thing that we've been longing for.
Right. And especially, like, unfortunately, when you compare, and again, I don't know how sizable the budgetary cuts were for this season or how much they felt they had to, like, allocate for the concert scenes or that kind of thing. If it's like a reallocation or if it's a generally like, hey, we poured all this money into season 1 and 2 and in season 3 you guys have less money to work with. I could see that. AMC just sort of like resizing their investment or something like that. But
yeah,
when you compare it to how the introduction we get to Louis' family in New Orleans and his relationship with his brother and his sister and his mother and how like nuanced that is and how that unfurls over several episodes and how like you understand Louis' distance from them.
Yeah.
But they are not cartoons in their sort of like, you know, issues with him. These, you know, Gabriella not excluded from this. Like these feel like more like cartoons than they do people at this table, these various table scenes.
Yeah.
And especially the father and the sons. I mean, justice for the wives who did not really deserve what they got, I thought. But like the father and the sons, like by the end of it, the wigs plus the makeup, they look like cave people. They look like Neanderthals. Like what?
Papa Lestat is in like a real like Viserys late in season 1 of Hot D kind of state, just like, chunks of his face.
Yeah, I just like a lot of, okay, so you and I were not fans of that.
Yeah, I will say though, on the opening VO, the opening voiceover from Lestat, Ed Epiphany.
Yeah.
I have no notes on that.
No. Ed Epiphany and then the sort of like the penis, the boat is my penis and the ocean is my mother's vagina.
That
all
was
this
just wonderful.
Absolutely wonderful. On that note, let's go to our deep dive. Okay, so is it like Auvergne? Auvergne? Something like that? I do not speak French very well. 1772, we've already mentioned a couple of our issues here, but I really agree. I thought the opening was really sharp. There's a lot of really sharp. And here's a thing that has been true of every episode, both episodes this season. Every time you rewatch it, you catch something else.
Yes.
And it is so rewarding in that way. And it can make it, there is this weird feeling you get watching these episodes because, especially like later when like the band is having their argument, there is this very sort of Robert Altman-esque like overlapping dialogue thing that they're doing here where it's just sort of like you really need to, in the band argument scene, which I loved and obviously we'll get to, I had to like
wonderful.
I was just like hitting back on 15 seconds,
Yeah.
like every, just to make sure I knew who was saying what. And also I didn't want to miss a thing because everything was so good,
Yeah, same.
And so like, that happens. So the writing is as sharp as it ever is. And the opening here, this let's address the incest elephant in the room from the end of episode 1. It's interesting to me. It's funny. And then it sort of recurs. Like Lestat throughout this episode is constantly sort of apologizing or explaining or being defensive about the choices that he and Gabriella are making. And we will talk about all of that and Lestat's discomfort with it, like obvious, palpable discomfort with it. And so as a character choice, I think it makes sense and it is interesting. This is his story. Also, like the fact that like, Louis does not know what happened and no one, he's lying about who his mother is.
Yes.
But like by the time The Failures comes out, everybody knows.
Right. Yeah.
That's what he said at the end of last week's episode. So this is like a big secret for him. But by the time The Failures came out, his secret has been exposed. So that's something we can sort of like look forward to. But like, so character-wise, it makes sense to me. On a narrative front, does it ever feel, we are quite accustomed to incest-heavy television shows having covered various Thrones properties.
Yeah.
The constant apologizing for it, does it feel like the show feels like it needs to apologize for it, or does it feel like Lestat feels like he needs to apologize for it?
Oh, interesting question. I think maybe a little bit of both. Like, I don't have the same sense that you do for maybe what people would have been expecting on this front based on the source material and the text. But I think what these flashbacks, we'll go through the different ages of Lestat that we get in the different phases. But once we get to the wolf killing and the salving of the wounds, and even some stuff before that, I think what is undeniable is that these two wanted to fuck each other long before they were vampires. So I left episode 1. One of the things we talked about last week was this question of like,
did this predate vampirism?
Yeah, is part of the explanation that we will get. It's okay if a mom and son fuck if they're vampires because you have a different relationship to your personhood, your past, etc.
It's different for vampires.
It's different for vampires, as Lestat says. But that's kind of the key, right? Because he's saying it's different for vampires, but this episode shows us that they had this pull toward each other long before that.
Yeah. Here's my interpretation. Let's talk about it. Here's my interpretation. And maybe I'm being like overly generous to Lestat, but I feel like there's clear discomfort from him. Inside of this episode of the modern storyline, when she was like, I came and came and came, like he looks uncomfortable and he's like, hey, let's just not do this. How about we don't do this? What do you say?
Yeah.
Here's my psychoanalysis of
Lestat. Let's have it.
There is no clear indication in the book that they like definitely were sexually attracted to each other before they returned. There are various phrases that are like somewhat charged, like she aroused my curiosity. Gabriella, I said, having never called her that outside of some of my very private thoughts, uncommon intimacy between them. When he talks about her coming into his room after the wolf hunt incident, my mother came quietly and almost stealthily into the room. And that whole monologue she gives him about how she really, really wants to fuck, like that's straight from the book.
Yeah.
While he's recovering from this like sort of wolf attack, she's like, you know what I want to do. So here's my... What's very clear, both the book and the show, is that Lestat is desperate for her attention, attention and her affection, because she's the only source of it inside of this home, right? His father and his brothers suck.
Right.
And her attention is very conditional. And, when he's getting beaten up by his brothers in an argument that, like, they were sort of in together.
Yes.
She just completely abandons him inside of that, right? Or we get that, like, horrible from his POV, her just like not really giving a shit that he's being beat up. She goads him into the wolf hunt, and his interpretation of that is that she was sending me to my death. Better to die by the wolves
than become a cabbage.
Than languish here as a cabbage. So her attention and affection is the number one thing he wants. Mm-hmm. And she spells it out for him inside of this episode. She's like, you know what I want more than anything? I want to fuck.
Yeah.
I want to fuck so many men. That's all I want to do.
Yes.
And so
very vivid dream.
That's the message she gives him while, like inappropriately applying salve to his body and stuff like that.
Yes. A lot of thigh rubbing.
So I feel that he gets the message of like, this is the best way to have her attention. This is the best way I can capture his attention. And then, like when she's like, I belong to nobody's like, except for devastating, except for me and silence, right? Or like all the ways in which in the modern day, like this is still true for him. In the modern day, he's like, are you staying? I only saw you twice in the last century. Like, how can I keep your attention? How can I keep you here?
Yes,
and so that's my interpretation of like, because I do think he has like a palpable discomfort with the incest. She seems to have no issue with it. And something that Hannah Moscovich, again, one of the writers, producers said is like, basically Gabriella comes to this crumbling castle. Auvergne is like as far away as you can get from Paris is what they say. It's a noble family in complete dissolution and disrepair. They're ignorant. They're uneducated. She loves her books. She is beautiful. She is fascinating, but she is just trapped here. And what she fashions Lestat into is a sort of like husband substitute because he's the only one in the family that she recognizes any spark inside of.
Right.
And so she makes him into her sort of like her accomplice and her, this is what that word Hannah used was like a husband.
Yeah.
And so for Gabriella, I think it's always been there. And for Lestat, it's there, but it's rooted in something different from sexual desire. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think that was quite, that's compelling. I don't think that was quite my interpretation of it. I think I agree with you that it stems from a desire to be like seen and valued and centered in her life. That's for sure right. I think that the fact that the shame and the like, fear of discovery is only present in the contemporary timeline tells me that that's more about introduces the possibility that that's more about his fear of what the other people he values would think than what he himself feels about it. Because like when he is, but I still think it's all a product of how you're weaned, right? So if she's basically grooming him to be the mini husband, it's not necessarily though again the Ed Epiphany part of it does also, and this is always interesting with Lestat in the show in general, like what is the connection to something that's like more mythic and eternal and universal and what is specific to you. So the question of like using characters in this show to say, hey, does every like young boy want to fuck his mom makes sense as something that the show is interested in, the story universe is interested in assessing. Young Lestat, I thought, I'll bring this back to the incest thing in a second, and we should reflect on how often we talk about incest here at House of Art.
Something to consider.
Something to consider.
To think about.
Something for all of the streamers out there to think about and something for us to think about here at home. But like, okay, so you already know, the dingy seat of the Leoncourt family, 1,000 years of aristocratic decline to like position us. You have this stunning chateau, but then this crumbling, inhabiting family holding on to something that they no longer deserve or know how to preserve, right? They're not caring for the land, caring for the people, et cetera. Then you have the kind of, the man of the cloth is here to introduce this monastery idea, right?
Education.
The boy possesses an ability to envision the unseen, the holy. He would be well suited to the monastic house. We go to that into the his dad's rage that Lestat was out playing with the theater troupe, the wagon full of actors. So you have like all of these things about young Lestat on the is it nature, is it nurture front that feel very present in the future with the character that we know and have come to love, right? Like there's this like philosophical mind, like this inclination to think about the way the world works and the things that people are drawn to and why. You also have this like
dramatic performer.
Pull toward show. Yeah, right? And a mode of expression. So all of that is there. And then with his mom, when his brothers were the stutter is here, right? And we see that as you teased last week. We have like this stretch where he is pinned down and I loved when he got like the stab wound into the grabs like a meat cutting implement and just stabs one of his shitty brothers. Great stuff. So he's kind of a fog is setting in as one of his brothers is choking him, and he looks over. This is teen Lestat at this point. She had a cold beauty, like snow behind a thick, distorting wall of glass, and I grew hard by example.
Oh, yeah. Phrasing.
Like, he definitely, I mean, hard, like I grew stern and strong, and she...
I don't think stern and strong. I think what he's saying is like callous. Callous by example.
Absolutely that as well.
But also the language is...
But I think both. I think stern and strong too, because like go kill the wolves or die. Be a man, right? What were you? What could you be? Men. The way she shouts that, like I think it's all in the mix. He's looking at her and he's got a boner and he wants to fuck his mom, right? And then when she's salving the leg wound, the inner thigh, I don't think even as we cut hilariously to the maid who's like, this is pretty gnarly. What's up with these two? He's not like, stop. Don't do it. And when she gets up to leave, he's like, come back and like, give me a handy.
I agree. I don't know that that's my interpretation of hard, though I thought the wording was obviously intentionally double play. I definitely agree about her sobbing his upper thigh and him being like higher. Again, I think it's just him basking and like, in the book, he describes how like when he gets injured by the wolf, it's the most attention she's ever paid to him. And he's just sort of like, how devastating that I had to be like so injured. And that's the only time that she will like, that I can like bask in her warmth. And it's also the time she chooses to tell him that she's dying.
Yes.
And it's just like horrible. I mean, Gabriella, the thing about Gabriella, I'm not a fan of hers personally. Hot take. I think she sucks. A lot of people like her because, and it's sort of clear here, though not as clear as it is in the book, that like, she's a woman who felt so frustrated by the limited roles of women in the time that she lived, and found liberation inside of vampirism, and so and being able to break out of the gendered roles, and so she favors in the modern storyline in the books men's clothing and keeps her hair short and all this sort of stuff like that, and so like this idea of like gender fluidity or gender roles, so like the way in which she saw in Lestat a male version of herself. And inside of this episode in the modern storyline, when they're coming up with their fake backstory of how they met, it's like we were wearing the same thing and I saw myself in you and all this sort of stuff like that. So like, is Jennifer Ely wearing like, blazers? Yes, but like it's so much less of the like sort of I'm assuming the role of the man that I was never allowed to be in the 1770s. But when she says, be a man, she's just so frustrated. It's very Cersei,
for
you know what I mean? Like you should have worn the dress and I the armor. You know what I mean? Like I'm suited for this and you're soft and useless. And so it's envy, it's gender identity, it's all this other stuff like that. And so like this idea of, when you think about like Louis as a gay man of color in the time that he lived in and the limitations and how vampirism allowed him to break out of that. For Gabrielle or Gabriella, for many readers, it's this sort of like this power that this woman finds inside of this world. But I find what she does with it, I mean, hot take, repulsive. Like she does groom her child, and that's repulsive to me.
Yes.
I'm going to take that stand.
Brave.
Thanks.
I agree. I think the other thing, I love the connection that you made to the Italy. We met at the, took our masks off. It's, but this face, I saw my face in it. Cover story, both because they fall back, as Lestat observes, so quickly into the rhythm of this shared yearning that they're trying to say, like, he's trying to say, we can't do this. And then there and back again. But the other thing is like the gender roles, the need for attention, some actual like Oedipal deep sexual longing, all of it. The other thing that feels, I think, hard to ever use the word appropriate when talking about incest, but appropriate for Lestat, a character we know very well at this point, and I think already fair to say appropriate for Gabriella, a character I've just met. This is like seismic narcissism, right? If you're saying the thing I see in exactly. If you're saying the thing I see in your face is my face, so I want to fuck you, that makes sense to me with these two characters.
With these personalities,
And so for Lestat, too, the grooming, the choosing that I'm going to make you my mini husband, sick, wrong, awful. Him then being weaned to like crave that kind of attention in that form, even more horrible. But the like extra degree of, and the reason you want me to be that is because I remind
you of
you is in this perverse logic, like an honor.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So I understand why the show is doing it.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But here we are. On the wolf hunt front, this is
Yes.
a very lengthy chapter inside of the book and a fairly famous chapter inside the book. It is a truncated version. Sam Reed in the official podcast did have like a funny moment where he was like, I insisted that I have a flail. He was like, Lestat has a flail in the chapter, so I wanted to have a flail, even though we don't get to see me use it because we don't get to see the actual like wolf fight. He's like, but I wanted it to be there. And he's like, and I think you can, if you freeze it, you can barely see it, but it's there because I was excited about it. Anyway,
great stuff.
We get the non-wolf killing scene, and I do think that though, given the limitations of what they showed us, I think Sam Reed's performance in the aftermath, talking about what happened to his horse and his dog, to me is the most evocative of like that scene. Like he talks about the dogs were puppies that his mother like allowed him to get, and they were like the only companionship he had, and he like raised them from puppies. And you know, his horse was also a gift from his mother, and it was like this very important thing to him. And so losing the dogs inside of this wolf hunt, losing his horse, and having to actually like kill his own horse to put his horse out of its misery. Sam Reed has to deliver all of that into like one line. And when he talks about recovering, I really related to this as like a pet owner who has lost pets. He talks about crawling into bed, and the bed is so cold and empty because he's used to sleeping with his dogs there and they're not there. And he's just sort of like, you know, that pain inside of the physical pain of the wounds, but like that pain as well. And so I thought Sam Reed's like, you know, just my dog, like that whole delivery, I thought was like a really, really beautiful way to connect to the core of the loss and the trauma of that event for him in his life.
I thought the performance was great. I liked the way the sequence inside of the overall stretch of maybe rushed backstory, edited and cut in a very effective way. You know, the swing of the camera, the widening of the horror on his face as the wolf is jumping toward him. On the dog front, though, I actually thought this was like a good, effective early primer for the fact that he's full of shit. The pain is real. He sends the dog.
Yeah.
So then he's like, so again, like, what is true, right? And what is the version of the thing that either he genuinely feels and believes to be true or is spinning for some sort of consumption.
Yeah.
So like, does he miss his dog and is the pain supreme? I'm sure the answer is yes. And yes, this is a character who feels deeply and develops real attachments to the figures in his life who bring him warmth and comfort.
Yeah.
He also is like, go forward into I have gutted an animal to draw the wolf pack.
Yeah.
And then I am sending my dog forward, go in. And then he stands there as the yelps fill the screen. Like, what did he think was going to happen to that dog? He sent his dog to the death. And then he's like, my dog.
Yeah.
So
I agree,
guilt and shame and remorse and all that. And it's all like kind of, it's entwined, right? But it's like, yeah, we should just always keep in mind when we're hearing him in his songs or whatever he says.
It's full of shit.
Full of shit.
Part of his dog
charm.
into the brush.
Ultimately.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the band. You know, I will just say, I do think book readers are a little like, because the Vampire Lestat as a book has this like intro that is, you know, the Vampire Lestat, I am the Vampire Lestat, and talking about waking up. And then it's like almost all entirely flashback of like, this is what happened in my life.
Okay.
How he's made Nikki, like all these other people, blah, blah. And then you get this coda at the end. So that book is like almost entirely like a piece of historical fiction.
Interesting.
So I think book readers coming to the season are like, hey man, we're getting just crumbs of what the book is. And then you've got all this other stuff that is, a lot of it is additive or brought in from other books and stuff like that. And the reason that they've done it, and I understand why, as like TV makers, they're like, we want to keep Daniel present. We want to keep Louis present, presumably Armand, presumably Claudia, like all of these characters that you've come to know and love. We are sort of re-engineering the plot. This is budgetary, but it's also just sort of like, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we were just doing the book, you wouldn't see Daniel at all. You wouldn't see Louis at all. And like, I don't want a season of television without Jacob Anderson and Eric Bogosian. Like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I think I understand it. And I also understand why people are sort of like bummed about not getting the adaptation that they were expecting, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because, okay, so you have a line like, your father and your brothers bent with shame. Great stuff. Come down, you'll enjoy it. This is like the mob who's here for a second day to worship him.
Yeah, it's a god.
Good example, I think, of do we need to see Lestat in the past soaking up the adulation? No, but like, kind of?
Right. What does human Lestat do with that?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, you know, the fact that this is something that even before he experiences it there, his mother knows that he would crave it and love it, right? The fact that he has sought it in these other forms. I think things like that would be really beneficial. Season 2, do we miss Lestat when he's not as present in the season? Sure. Is the show very creative in how to keep him in the mix until he's like back in full?
Right. The imaginary friend that is Lestat.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
A lot of season 2 requires you to like care about Santiago and the theater troupe to really level up your investment in Armand.
Yeah.
Which I did happily because it was so fucking good.
Yeah.
Right? So by the time you're in that apartment with Armand and Daniel strapped to a chair, it's like the most riveting hour of the season.
Yeah.
So I think that I say that just because like I think that the impulse to keep Louis, Daniel, all these other figures in the mix makes complete sense. I wouldn't want them to be gone for long either. I think the show has proven it is capable of achieving that balancing act.
I agree.
And so maybe we still get that with Gabriella. That's entirely possible. Or the band, which those scenes have been good. So we are getting a version of that already with new figures. I mean, Christine, like, give her a spinoff. I'm ready.
I'm so ready. Let's talk about
The icon, the legend.
the band only meeting.
Great stuff. Just great stuff.
Which Larry yells at one point. So good. Yeah. All right. So Lestat wakes up in the bus on the road to Toledo to the side of Daniel using the bus shower.
Yes. Also, he wakes up from his coffin on the bus. So when he later is like, willful ignorance from all of you guys, I'm like, yeah, wait, was he sleeping in a coffin on the bus the entire tour? And they really like, you have super committed to the bit, my guy.
Do you think the shower in the middle of the room is the only shower on the bus? We've seen two people use it so far. We've seen Dee and Daniel use it.
We got some real Daniel tush cam there. Yeah.
He was really going for it, washing
sure
the
was.
bum. Yeah.
Well, we learned elsewhere. He didn't, he didn't get the cloud gift. He didn't get the fire gift. He just got the low hanging balls gift. He wanted more, so I gotta keep him clean. Is that the only shower on the bus? Great question. I think it can't be. It seems impossible. And yet, how much real estate on a tour bus can you devote to like
showers?
Indoor plumbing?
I don't know. All right. So as you mentioned, Christine and the band are arguing about what they saw. And I'm sorry, I paused and wrote down every single line of the scene
I wrote
because
down
it
a
killed
lot
me.
of them too. They were so good. I don't think an NDA gives you legal clearance for murders. The opener is when I knew this was going to be special.
Christine, caustic, wonderful at her job, boning Lestat.
Yeah.
Can perform what most metropolitan draining systems can only dream of. That's from a later scene, but I just thought I would crap it. Like, lean all the way in, girl. I love Christine. Lawyer Christine, incredible.
Fantastic.
And this is a huge expansion from the book. All like the band members and Christine are getting like a huge expansion for the book, and it is all
appropriate.
Really working for me. Salamander. Reading the book,
The best.
full of questions about Armand. Is this guy secretly the funniest person on the show?
He's hysterical.
Every single one of his asides in this, and just his delivery too, is so funny inside of this scene.
He's amazing. I'd like to be in a book club with him, given his diligent note-taking and propensity for follow-up questions. I loved also when Lestat shifts after Alex is threatening to quit and then actually leaving. Lestat has the sequence where he's reading everybody's minds and telling them with some editorializing and tweaking of the truth.
Yeah.
To suit his agenda, what they're all thinking about Alex. And then one of the things he says to Salamander is like, I make it a habit to never sleep with my bandmates, which tells us that Salamander is looking at Lestat as he's thinking all these questions and like, can we fuck? Which like, again, who among us, but is just one more just incredible bit on the Salamander front. A character who in episode 1, I will repeat, was getting a blowjob in the background shot of a really crowded room.
Lestat's face when Salamander calls Le Petit Coup the small cup.
Incredible.
Which is not what that means, the little sip, but he's just like...
Incredible.
Really funny. Also his face when it's like, when's the last time you talked to Armand? It's not just it's not just the lines in the scene, which are all solid gold to me.
Really great.
It is like, but Sam Reed's performance in this is just like
sensational. They were all really good. Like even the way Larry with the little shutters, like the farm? That's like, doesn't sound great.
No.
This was really, really, really good.
Tough Cookie has very reasonable Twilight questions, does a mean and fantastic impression of Lestat crooning lovesick lyrics, calls Louis Lewis, and then explicates the black licorice lyrics in a way that filled me with pride. Tough Cookie, come on, House of R.
Do you guys play baseball like in Twilight? It's hysterical. Just genuinely hysterical.
On the official pod, they asked Sam Reed if they thought he would enjoy Twilight, if Lestat enjoyed Twilight. And he's like, yeah, I think he liked the glitter. I think he was into it.
I think he liked the glitter. Incredible.
All right, Fareed, he's here. He lets us know about the blood farm. I think Fareed's vibe, which is just very like background, but like really making an impression on me, is really, really good.
Key moments so far.
And then Alex freaked the fuck out. You said it was a deer, as DEAR as any KFC night manager has a right to be.
My favorite line of the episode.
The writing on this show is insane. It is so good.
Yeah.
Alex quits.
Actually, my second favorite line of the episode.
Oh, okay.
We'll come back to the boardroom, but
Alex quits.
He sure does. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It doesn't seem wise. You know, if I were Alex, I maybe would be a little more reluctant, especially given the telepathically delivered direct from Lestat to me. Hey, you know, actually that wasn't about you. It was about Larry. You're the most you're the purest, most talented natural musician in this band other than me. Take the time, take the space, breathe, reflect. Don't do any of these other things though.
Don't talk about me in your meeting.
Talk about me in your meetings. Don't go to the cops. Like the not so subtle threat from Lestat of what would happen to Alex and the people that he loves if Alex missteps here. Seems like probably things aren't going to go well for Alex.
Larry intrigued, but perhaps a bit wounded that Lestat did not kill that guy who bungled his sound check.
That's right.
Gabriella going by Sophia now. And then Daniel out and proud, asking Gabriella who her maker is in a way that makes Lestat a bit anxious, I think.
Yes, indeed. That's Daniel very much on the
he's the hunter.
He's the hunter. On the Lestat told Louis that she died of consumption, and the point you're making earlier about how he has lied about this. Daniel, you know, a journalist who I continue to have notes for, but a journalist.
Smells the story.
From the word go here, knows that this is a person he needs to figure out more about. And even though he will say elsewhere in the episode in a great moment that about Louis, that's the story.
I agree.
He's the story. And we're like, Daniel, correct.
Same.
Obviously, he knows that there's something to learn about quote unquote, air quotes, Sophia here and this connection to Lestat that will be important. I like the way that there's like a variance in degree of the way people are asking questions. Like you said, like Salamander, book reader. He's really like, Armand's a daywalker, right? He's soaking up the lore already. Yeah. Larry, who is drawn in a way that Lestat can suss out. Like, did you want me to actually kill that guy in there? Or are you kind of like annoyed? Is that what you hoped?
Yeah.
Has maybe a darkness in him, but he's also like, sorry, what the fuck is Akasha? Yeah. You know, the way that there's like, he's just like.
I don't know if Lestat's mentioned, but he has the blood of Akasha in him. I don't know if he's mentioned that.
A time or two.
But he has the blood of Akasha.
And the Twilight thing was hysterical because that's like, that actually is a question maybe that you would ask if you were in a band in 2025
with a vampire
and had watched vampire movies and a vampire was now in your band. You'd be like, do you play baseball? Does your skin glitter? Like that stuff. I like that everybody's asking questions and they're all very specific to who those people are. And Daniel's like, no, I have real questions to ask. Like something is up here. Who is this person?
Yeah. Who is this woman? And then later when they all leave and it is just the band in there and Lestat is like sort of watching Daniel talk to her outside. Yes. Like he's just like uncomfy with the fact that Daniel is on the hunt here. Lestat throughout this episode is doing a horrible job of concealing like how obsessed he is with Louis. Yeah. But I do think my favorite, most revealing line is, I lived 54,554 days before I met Louis de Pontelac. Did you count the days that you've existed before you met me?
I don't recognize time before you were in my life. I'm the opposite of this.
Do you think it's a good defense of how little someone means to you if you have the exact count of days that you lived before you met them?
It's a real telling on yourself moment from Lestat here, but I loved that. It's great. Obviously, it's like as Louis is about to return more fully into the episode, really great. I love too, though, like, you know, we get that Alex is like, he kills people, we're people, and Lestat says, so was I, right? No vampire is born a vampire. Makes sense in an episode where we're glimpsing his past history. Makes sense as we think about Gabriella and her conversion as well. Louis will ask Daniel, like, hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
You know, how you doing? He's like, I understand vampire loneliness now, right? But also like these potential, you know, great conversion, recurring through line now and a beat that has come up many times. How many of the people in this band are about to become vampires? Like, I don't know the answer to that, but I presume at least someone.
Which one do you most want to see as a vampire?
I think Larry strikes me as I would be inclined to say Salamander would be the most likely to say me, but Larry seems maybe the most likely because he's the least secure.
Yeah.
Right? So he's the most likely, I think, to want the level up, the power boost of being a vampire. But like this is part of a
Tough
human.
Cookie would be the best vampire hang.
She'd be amazing.
Big fan.
She'd be amazing. She and Salamander would both be a blast. Yeah. Jury's out on Larry and Alex on the good hang front. But, keeping a count that you could only maintain if you were a vampire in terms of the sheer volume of days, but it's stemming from such a human impulse of like, it is so apparent to everybody, no matter how long or how well they've known you, that all of this is about this one person who you love and are obsessed with and are not ready to let go of.
Yeah.
And it is also true that you had an entire life before that and people who meant something to you. And like part of a breakup or any sort of like shift in status in a relationship that's been central to your life. I mean, people deal with that stuff differently, but often it's a little bit of the constant yo-yoing internally of like, the thing I want more than anything is to be back with this person. And also I need to like prove to myself and everyone else that I don't need them at all. And I'm a full person without them and I was before and I can be again. So like that was a great way to give us that in miniature with a very comedic exact count.
Excuse me.
This was great.
Gabriella fucking with the wee homie
hysterical.
Robot, which surround me constantly. Have you seen the Minions ones like running around? There are ones that are like made to look like Minions
a minion?
Because it's like a promo thing. Los Angeles is just like lousy with these delivery robots.
Anyway, they get stuck a lot.
We talked a lot about the scene already. I just do want to note that Lestat's famous wolf killer cloak, which we've seen already in season 2, is this red thing with a wolf pelt on it, and that's like made from the wolves that he killed.
Yeah.
He's wearing this sort of like modern day version of it in these scenes with Gabriella. He's got this sort of like wolf killer jacket that he's wearing. It looks incredible.
I mean, as always, his fits rule just as yours do. Thank you. Two of the greats when it comes to
does not breathe very well.
Some sort of overcoat.
Companionship without the cum.
Companionship without the cum, and I came and came and came. Just really incredible stuff from Gabriella in this stretch. When she says to him, after he says, like, how long are you staying? I only saw you twice last century. It's a reasonable question to ask. And she's like, show me Wilmington and food courts. I want to play cornhole. How did this place, and by extension, this person, right, on the Louis jealousy and intrigue front, enthrall my son? Like, right? She wants to understand
why you've been here,
why
for the
he's
last
been
century.
here for so long.
Yeah.
Is there any authentic desire to understand that, or is it purely from a place of like, why
Possession.
anywhere but where I am?
Yeah. Well, I don't think she wants him with her.
Right.
I think
but she wants him to want to be with her.
To be with her. Yeah.
So gnarly.
Gross.
Oh, God.
All right. Toledo.
Yeah.
The second most depressing city in the U.S.
Tough.
I Googled this. This depression stat is true. But also there's like so many of these rankings. You could find almost any mid-sized city on one of these lists. So according to whomst. But how do you feel about the hands on the edge of the frame approach to skirting the budget on the cloud gift thing? I kind of liked it, actually.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
Willing to accept it. I thought the the voiceover in the stretch was so good. It's like a lullaby, everything we're hearing from
In the glass
Lestat.
corner of a glass building, a group of building glass salesmen were closing a sale of substantial amount of glass sold to a company in a yet-to-be tariffed Germany.
Really great, obviously.
So good.
And they're about to like follow the potential marks through this night. The seafood tower, Chubbs, etc., as the list of contenders to kill narrows down. We also got Gabriella saying the worst reveal themselves through time and Negroni. And I'd like to ask Amanda Dobbins formally if she cares to comment as the world's leading Negroni enthusiast. But yeah, the like, okay, you can like the hands and you could sort of kind of pick up the reflection of their passing forms in this glass office building. Fine. It's fine.
I think it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. So the glass corner of a glass building, and we watched as the remaining items on the menu marinated themselves in the pole-ravaged sweat of sex-positive, sex-cynical, sex-stipulated dancing. I mean, I'm sorry. I think the writing on the show is some of the best shit that has ever existed.
Really great.
You mentioned this fairy tale aspect. I forgot to talk about this in the flashback, but like I was really zeroing in on this idea of Lestat And especially in the book, he has more siblings who are alive. But no matter what, he's the youngest son. And I was thinking a lot about this like fairy tale archetype of the youngest son, how like in a fairy tale, there's usually like 3 sons. There's the eldest brother, middle brother, youngest son. Sometimes it's more than that. But they're always unworthy. And then the youngest son is the one who's worthy. And so I was like digging into like where did that come from? And why is it true? And I was reading some sort of like scholarly papers about this. And as far as they can tell, you know, in the work that has been done with like folklore and fairy tale, because this is across like multiple cultures that this archetype is true. It's an almost like, because the youngest son never inherits. Right. And that's the thing is like, you know, the eldest always inherits. And like for the older sons, there's usually something, a living of some kind. And the youngest son is just like on your own kid, you know, sort of thing. And so this idea that like, it's almost like a populist, it's almost democratic thing of like the one who isn't really part of the aristocracy, the one who's like closest to the people is the one who's going to be like more pure spirit and noble of heart. And I'm not saying Lestat is like, compared to his like knuckle dragger brothers, yes, but like, but what is this dark fairy tale that we are experiencing? And how does, you know, Lestat, who will be chosen for the dark gift and all this sort of like what perverted, twisted storyteller are we watching that the youngest son who usually meets like an enchantress who bestows, you know, upon him gifts and stuff like that, is going to be turned into a vampire. Like, you know, how is that interacting with our ideas of what a fairy tale is? And how does Lestat think about his own making in that way? Is it a gift? Is it a curse? What is it at the end of the day, you know?
Did Lestat, as the youngest son, ever shave his head, pretend to be a stable boy, become a squire, at attorney? It's hard not to think about that on the what can you do if you're the youngest son front, and then where does it go from there? That's
so funny. I thought you were going to bring up the brothers from Harry Potter, but you know, Night of the Seven Kingdoms also works. Gabriella and the Hunt is pretty fun. Gabriella, not a huge fan, but when she's talking to that guy and he's like, "Oh, you're Italian. There's this great Italian restaurant." She's like, "Do they have spaghetti?"
That made me laugh.
So funny.
Hysterical.
Ominous warning siren, the Great Conversion is mentioned.
Yes.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory what the Great Conversion might be.
Sure seems like it. I assume this is about turning more people into vampires. We've heard a few things over the seasons now at this point. This is actually going back to season 1. But like the swelling of the numbers.
That's what Raglan says.
Yeah. So everyone's going to become a vampire, and then what does Akasha do with that? Because these are
what do you eat? If everyone's a vampire, what do you eat?
You got to keep some people around on your farms, I guess.
Oh, on the farms, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Real Rashid is here at the strip club. The Telemasca enters the plot. Real Rashid, by the way, kind of a glow up. Like he was always like quite handsome, but he's like with the glasses.
Looks great.
And new hair, like some sideburn action, some gray in the hair. Like looks fantastic. Lestat's dead shitty brother is also here.
Yes, an unamusing muse. Great turn of phrase on that one.
Okay, so this is a question we had last week, which is like, because it's not in the book, I don't know the answer to this, which is like, how seriously are we supposed to take what Baby Jenks, when she was on the ceiling, said about the they who are coming, right? Inside of this voiceover, Lestat calls her an oracle, the Oracle Jenks, right? And he's like, is this the they she meant? Like, did she mean the ghosts that are coming? And in that case, is it a sort of almost like Christmas Carol, you will be visited by ghosts 3 or something like that, you know? Is that what she means? Or is there a different they coming? I don't know the answer, but like him calling her an oracle inside this episode, to me, tells me that in the grammar of the show, we're supposed to take her warning seriously.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
I think that's correct. And this is where, of course, like the fact that we are not independent of the actual literal flashbacks, moving in and out of time with Lestat, because we get an actual, in a different part of the episode in the Daniel Louis sequence, just an explanation and like a cover from Lestat on how he's able to like tell us what happened in this scene. He wasn't there, which we'll talk about when we get there. But, you know, the voiceover that we're hearing on the failures, this is after this future horrible thing has unfolded.
So we really know whether or not she was an oracle.
We really know because we have he has the
point.
clarity of these future events that is then informing the framing that is being delivered to us through these tapes, et cetera. And then we also have whatever in real time he, a supernatural being, would maybe put stock in as some sort of prophetic event. So I think it's like kind of there in all directions.
Yeah, that's very smart.
There's also, I think, with the Great Conversion thing, and because that's that language choice is prophetic, in addition to the actual little harbingers and omens that we're getting, signs and portents and signs. It's fun to think about, like, I don't know how much of this is known and explained definitively in the book and how much of this is new to the show, but, you know, the fact that is language that we heard in season 1 and language that we heard in season 2 makes it clear that this predates Lestat as Rockstar and even the publication of the book. Something was happening with the swelling of the ranks before then.
Yeah.
However, so that makes me think,
whose
plan is it? How many vampires are like maybe deliberately seeking to increase the numbers of the vampire kind?
Right.
But then in addition to that, and maybe this is just something that develops that helps whoever that is achieve their ends, there's a public acknowledgement, even though we talked about this a lot in episode 1, how many people are like, oh, interesting, I've moved on with my life immediately, and how many people are like, is this real and can you make me a vampire?
Right.
Like the book that guy, and then Lestat.
That fan in the audience in episode 1 who's like, I know you're real.
Yes. Right. And isn't the next encounter there most likely to be, will you bite me and make me a vampire, right? So how many people now are like, I would like this to be my life because I have been exposed through Daniel's book and now through Lestat's tour, even in the like body burlesque of what's real and what isn't.
I gotta say,
I want that to be my life.
If you're gonna send 2 people to be ambassadors of vampirism, Jacob Anderson and Sam Reed, great point. Great choices.
I mean, who would be able to resist?
Yeah.
No one.
Oh, I get to be that and you don't.
Bite me.
Bite me immediately.
Bite me.
All right.
This was another part, by the way, I'm jumping ahead. This was when we haven't hit the Christine calling him about Thomas Pitt, but this was when he was describing the blood down the staircase and being with Gabriella, when he was like, it just feels good. Like, again, he's like, I know it shouldn't, but it just feels good.
Yeah.
But then the things he is describing are horrible, but I guess not to a vampire.
Well, like when they go to the motel.
The Evite thing.
After the Christine phone call, after he's like, do I have to sleep with them? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, how often does Lestat have to do that to get them out of some trouble? Gabrielle and Lestat stalk their prey to a motel.
Yes.
Here's my interpretation of it. And again, maybe I'm like just too much of a Lestat defender and I'm just sort of like creating more sympathy where there shouldn't be. But it seems like when the last guy that they are stalking to the motel comes out and, you know, he was like, having sex with, you know, a stripper or whoever, a sex worker, calls his wife, talks to his kids. So it's like, okay, this guy, this piece of shit, while he's on the road for a business trip, is cheating on his wife,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. So Gabriella looks kind of more excited that he's got kids and a wife.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that's because she's like, oh, he was cheating on his wife and is a bad dad, so that makes me even more excited to kill him.
Yeah.
Lestat, to me, looks more uncomfortable finding out that he has kids. And when you couple that with his clear discomfort at the end of the episode, again, my interpretation, of when he hears his nieces and nephews screaming when they find the slaughtered family in the one room in that house we're allowed to go into. And he is awake and troubled by that. And Gabriella is like sleeping blissfully, having done this.
Yeah.
It seems to me that there is a gap in their moral code.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I do. Yeah. I think the connection for Gabriella, I mean, potentially it's just the overall bloodlust and she's not discriminating. And even though they go through this winnowing of the potential meal to get to Randy was his name, I think his name. Anyone would have done, I think, for Gabriella, right? Sure. I love your observation that maybe the fact that this guy is spending the night at Chubb's, swiping on Tinder, fucking someone who isn't his wife, and then calling and saying, I'm just, you know, I'm leaving the chop house. I'm not leaving this seedy motel where I just fucked someone who wasn't you. Reminding her of her disgusting husband who she was forced to suffer through a life with.
Yeah.
As extra, one more thing to just like enjoy about destroying him. Exactly. Yeah. Quite saucy. Quite saucy, those meals. But we notably don't see that person consumed. The next time we're with them, they have killed in this restaurant.
The Italian restaurant.
So I think you're right that it seems at least plausible that Lestat is like, what if we went somewhere else for a meal? Now, maybe that's just dessert.
Right. Or
It's possible.
Or the second course or whatever the case may be.
This was also, too, where he was like, in the blood down the staircase, it feels good. Finding the party invitation in your victim's pocket. Well, I mean, it doesn't happen anymore. Damn the Evites. Incredible.
Such
that was
a good line.
Hysterical, and his delivery was just perfect. But then I was really struck by this. He was like, it's like, that's it. How often can we think of a moment where Lestat doesn't finish his sentence? Right? So Gabriella is a figure in his life who confounds him.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that is clear to us already, but very confusing to him.
And sends him back to a very young place.
Yes.
We got the stutter from him at the end of episode 1. You know, it just like, the ways in which he comports himself as this sort of like swaggering, in control, egomaniac, all this sort of stuff like that. But like who he is in relation to her, even though he's her maker.
Yes.
He's just like completely under her thumb. And
like he's always such a poet.
Yeah.
A literal lyricist.
Yeah. And that's what I like about the stutter. The stutter is a show invention. Mm-hmm. In the book, he's illiterate. And he's actually really resentful of Gabriella because she's always in her books, but she won't teach him how to read. So he hates her books because she's always in her books. And if you think back to season 1, after Claudia is gone, Louis just like buries himself in his books and Lestat cannot handle it. And that's because he's thinking about his mom and her sort of disappearing into her books and how he can't follow her. But this idea that like Lestat as a human was a stutterer or illiterate, whatever the case may be, and like who he has fashioned himself into, just sort of like the fastest tongue in the West sort of like person at the end of the day.
Indeed.
All right. Speaking of which, Thomas Pitt has an exclusive fan experience. We both agree about this.
Just unbelievable.
But do you agree with me that the show just works on a whole different level when Jacob Anderson is here? Like I missed him so much in episode 1. And I love Sam Reed, as I've said for years, but and Eric Bogosian and Assad and all of them. But there's just something about Jacob Anderson's like voice and performance as Louis that just like takes this show to a completely different level. And I shout out Thomas Pitt, which they have acknowledged, I thought, and then they acknowledged is a reference to Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, the stars of the film Interview with a Vampire. Pretty cute. But yeah, Jacob Anderson is here, and I just feel like something just like really clicks into place as soon as he shows up for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think the single best version of the show is when they share a scene. Yes. But when we're watching Daniel and Louis I'm specifically reminding you, I wasn't in this scene, right? Lestat voiceover, it's them. It's breathtaking. You know, I didn't like me in it, right? When Louis is sitting with Rashid and Raglan, the Talamasca scene, like any scene that Louis is in is just like at a fever pitch.
Just him watching the concert. Yeah. The way that Jacob Anderson is, all the emotions that he's putting on his face as Louis, watching Lestat sing. And also, I just like rewound and watched it 5 different times. The telepathic conversation between Daniel and Louis, where I could just like really see those line reads on both of those actors' faces. I just like, and really I was like, what was happening? Like, did they have an earwig in their ear? And they were like hearing their line back, and they were just like, let me match my facial expression to what my line. I don't know. I just thought it was exquisite,
really great.
All right, so Louis and Lemuel,
incredible. It's really like your music.
And Lestat and Christine,
so good.
They're arguing over all of this. Sausalito, which, so as you mentioned, we saw this clip as far back as San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah. They've shown it a lot. Something that Sam Reed said is that apparently this scene was supposed to be buried by voiceover. This was like, because there's a lot of things we see that we don't hear in the show because there's voiceover over it. So this was supposed to be a scene where we hear Lestat, but we're watching them argue. And so Sam Reed was like, so we really went, in those scenes when you're going to be covered by a voiceover, you perform almost to the rafters because you're like, I have to like really show how I'm feeling because people won't be able to hear me. Yeah. But they're like, but Roland Jones like loved it so much that they just kept it, and it is so good. Shout out Sausalito, shout out Marin County where I was born. So Sausalito, Santiago, like great Lestat shit here.
Santiago, I could understand at least he had a presence, but
Armand,
unbelievable. And as we talked about when the clip came out, or maybe when we did our Comic-Con pod, like you said, I bet very specific detail to pluck out of thin air is just,
I bet.
An incredible exchange, an incredible scene, the rhythm that they have together, like with love and respect to the actual music and musical numbers of the show, which are incredibly entertaining and genuinely like, boy, impressive. This is the real music of the show.
Yeah.
Like this duet.
And you're right. It is musical. The way
the
that,
rhythm and rapport that they have together. It's a dance, but it's also a duet.
Yeah.
And like, there's just kind of nothing like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's electric to watch them.
I feel similar, like the I bet, or like a lot of people were comparing that delivery to in season 1 when Louis is like, oh, so can I sleep with other people? And Lestat goes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. Or Armand going, Lestat. Like there is this like, it gets stuck in your head like a line of song. That's a beautiful observation. Later, Louis will tell Raglan that he knows it was the Fang Gang or that fucked up his hotel.
Yeah.
So this entire meeting is really just a thinly veiled excuse for Louis to see Lestat. That's how I choose to read it.
Yeah.
Anyway. The songs are not about you. Louis also chose to get involved in Lestat's merch sales. Like, is it fucking with him? Yes. But is it a way to be connected with him? Yes.
It's all of the above.
Yeah.
It's like incredible moment when Lestat's like, well, what the fuck? And Christine's like, I'll look into it. Like a way to keep Lestat on his back foot, right? But the next conversation that we witness with Louis and Daniel is like this real, I feel really bad about this, right?
Right.
So there's kind of all of it. I think that what you're observing about that desire to be connected to him when they are apart.
Yeah.
But also like, I have I saw a business opportunity. Like one of the things he says to Daniel, it's like the reach that Louis has, the way that those glassy vampire fingers of Louis have worked
immortal
their way
properties.
into immortal properties. Talamasca coming to him for what exact reason and motive? We have what Raglan actually will say, and then we have our theory brains.
Yeah.
But like, hey, we need like you to get involved here.
So what I love about that is that you can connect that back to the Louis that we meet in season 1, and Lestat in this scene calls him bottom line Louis, right? Like there's a business opportunity, you go for it. And Louis later says to Daniel, I saw money on the table, right?
Yes.
It's just this idea of like Louis, who always had this sort of entrepreneurial mindset when he was in New Orleans, and how that has just expanded and expanded in his vampire years. And so this idea that he like owns a random hotel in Detroit, but like how far does immortal properties go? And what? Yeah. But the idea that like Lestat has always been interested in the theater, and Louis has always been interested in owning things and owning property and building money off of other money and stuff like that.
And then that aspect of like, well, what is authentic to each of them? And then how does it unlock something in the present moment? Because then you think back to like the red carpet arrivals last week in episode 1, and that setup that we got from Lestat of like the opening, right, of this boutique hotel. So
did he plot where the tour was going?
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
like, and I don't know how quickly you can spin up a boutique hotel. Those walls crumble pretty quickly.
If you've got vampires working for you,
and the means, right, which Louis has. So, like, the business impulse there, the entrepreneurial spirit there.
I love that idea.
But is he just like, where are the tour dates? Let's make sure that every place this guy goes is somewhere I own.
That means that's like makes me kind of emotional.
That's like amazing.
All right. Pretty green eyes than the Cougar Milanese. All right, so 2 new songs in this episode. The first previewed earlier for us by Tough Cookie is Why Do I Have to Feel? This one, Lestat sings dramatically and directly to Louis. This all really worked for me. It's quite cheesy. The like slowing down, the gold, and the like, levitating up to the balcony. But I loved this. Are we supposed to believe that the band minus Alex is playing better now, like finding their sound? So to that email we got from our listener.
Yeah.
The ecstasy of letting Larry actually play his guitar rather than tambourine. And that idea of like, everyone has something to contribute here. We're a band. By the way, bands fighting on a tour bus. Of course, I'm also thinking about Almost Famous. Like,
naturally,
could this be more for me? No, could not be more for me. But do you feel like we're supposed to believe that this performance is better? I mean, I already said that I like Longface, but like, are we meant to believe that?
Well,
Why Do I Have to Feel is being performed more successfully than their previous concerts?
That's a good question because I don't know the answer to that because,
The crowd seems bigger, but the venue just seems a little bigger.
Yeah, but then we have Daniel, but you can't.
Thin.
He sends us. They sound thin without Alex, but it's Daniel. So you're like, is he just being a dick a prick because he's Daniel, or like, do they actually not sound as like fully realize as they should when their membership is intact because their best guitarist hasn't fled after finding out that their frontman is actually a murderous vampire.
Right.
I thought on the floating toward Louis front, I was like, this looks pretty silly, but
very silly.
I
liked it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's effective inside of it is like, I don't know, the way that it reminds us that time can feel like it moves differently for these characters because they're vampires, but also just because of the connection that they have to each other. The way that like everybody, you see
everybody except for the other vampires, because Gabriella can see them.
Exactly.
Right?
Gabriella's looking back like, what the fuck? So she has her personal investment in this.
Yeah.
Louis and Lestat are sharing this moment. A lot of the people in the crowd are just sort of like looking at the stage still. It's almost like it happens out of the experience of other people's ability to understand. Yeah. But then it also still sort of ports you. So you have that where you're like, what are other people even like tracking here versus how much of this is like a projection for Louis? But you could also say the more literal interpretation of like the audience is ready to be deceived that we got with Santiago and the theater troupe and the way that he would actually levitate. And we talked about a mini version of that with the crowd surfing into the like your feet are not on the ground and they don't even track it or they do and they think it's part of the trick. So how much of that is there like, this is the whole show I came to see, and how much of it is they can't even perceive how much of it is only like, for Louis, but Gabrielle can
if they're
access.
Like, oh, Pink can levitate during a concert, so can Lestat. The Leoncourt. All right. Fun fact that I just found by accident by Googling the lyrics of the song. Sometimes I do that to find out what the title of the song is. This song, which is called Why Do I Have to Feel, written by Daniel Hart, includes lyrics from a song by the group Man Man. Titled The Prettiest Song in the World. So I wanted to write you the prettiest song in the world, but I got distracted. That's a lyric from that song. In that song, he says, by fires in Burbank or whatever. Here, Lestat produces that book from God knows where, certainly not in his tight pants, and like shoves it at Louis. But a fun fact is that the group Man Man is, the lead singer is Ryan Kattner, who plays Salamander. So this is like lyrics from a song by the guy who's playing Salamander, who's the music supervisor on the show, that they incorporated into this moment, which I thought was just like a really fun thing. We will talk a bit more about the sort of Baudelaire poem that is part of the second song there. Something that I saw a really brilliant online fandom assessment of this show's version of Lestat, because the lyrics here, I was afraid of losing you and then I lost you, which is the lyrics that Tough Cookie was making fun of earlier in the episode too.
Right.
I lost you, like all that sort of stuff. But I saw a really brilliant fan assess this as like that Lestat will time and again do things that contradict his personal moral code, which is like turn Claudia, perhaps attack the Leoncourt family. Perhaps have sex with his mom when he like doesn't really feel like it's the right thing to do, even if he is somewhat attracted to her, whatever, in his desperate attempt to make people he loves stay. He will do these things that he believes are incredibly wrong. And then they leave anyway. And that's just the story of Lestat. Sad.
Very sad. Very, very sad.
There's also one shot where Jennifer Ehle as Gabriella is plugging her ears while Lestat is singing in the crowd. It's incredibly funny to me.
Oh, God.
When Daniel and Louis are having their telepathic conversation.
Yeah.
And in contrast to season 1, when Louis says, you're looking old, Daniel, he says, you're looking younger, Daniel, right? And Daniel says, monocytes and Manjaro. Do you think monocytes and Manjaro is a lost Jane Austen novel? And if not, should we write it?
I thought you were going to say, is it a Prestige TV email?
Monocytes and Manjaro.
Why not both?
Too many options inside of this show to make.
That's true.
So Jacob Anderson has said that Louis receiving this annotated copy that we saw Lestat furiously highlight and write notes in the margin and all this sort of stuff like that, like him looking at it. And that page that he's looking at in the concert, if you zoom in, the note on the top of the left-hand page is, why is Louis trying to hurt me? That however bad Louis felt before about the book, this unlocked a new layer of guilt for him. Like
Right.
seeing, it's not just like Lestat is having a tantrum and like performing that he's upset. Like he wrote these notes. He really felt wounded by this. And this is just a new level of him understanding that in a way that he didn't before.
And the way that in the Louis-Daniel conversation, Louis' like, we were working our way back to each other, right? So there's the extra degree of regret.
Yeah.
The balloons are nice. They're activating animations on iPads.
They're
before it all goes
FaceTiming.
to shit. They're
Yeah.
FaceTiming. But then, and this is of a piece with the overall aspect that Louis has to confront, it would be easy to just blame Daniel. You didn't ask me and you published the book and you knew I didn't want to because I forgot about the cloud, but I deleted the file. So what I wanted here was clear, even though I told you all this stuff in the first place. But at the end of the day, he has to reckon with the fact that he said these things.
A liar.
Right? And he made Lestat feel this way because of the things he said, because of his version of it. Now, there's also the version of that for Lestat, which is like, he also has to look at the truth on the page or a version of the truth and say like, is that how he sees me? Or is that how I am?
With that shitty ass haircut.
And no scars.
All right, so let's go into that scene. So Daniel is taken up bowling. This dinner conversation, you already mentioned that we get this sort of lampshading of the omniscient narration in voiceover.
This is my hour, and when tertiary figures appear in it, I will be speaking for them. Just great stuff that also casts obviously more doubt on the reliability of the narration.
For sure.
No question.
With less whining than these two managed to accomplish. Ominous warning siren. I woke the queen and unleashed her wrath upon the world.
I mean, it doesn't sound great.
Doesn't sound ideal.
Sounds like it'll be entertaining television, though.
I wonder when that happens. I don't know.
Yeah, what's your prediction? I feel like this is knowing literally nothing about future events. I feel like this is... So it's a 7-episode season. We're through 2. We have a lot of harbingers through 2 episodes, specifically around Akasha and this like horrible...
Did you know that Lestat has the blood of Akasha in him?
It's come up.
Wow.
World-shattering circumstance that awaits. It feels like it can't actually just then be like, oh, she's here in the finale. Like it has to be sooner than that.
I don't know the answer to that because, again, they're blending 2 books.
Yeah.
So I don't know what timeline, like how much of that book, which is titled The Queen of the Damned, that they're saving for another season they're hoping to get, or, how much they're rushing it into this season. I don't know.
My inclination initially was maybe she'll be introduced in the finale and then that sets up the adaptation for like season 4 and the next renaming of colon a Star Wars story. But like, it would be a lot, I think, to forecast and tease a apocalyptic doom and not give us that in this season.
And maybe not even get that next season.
Yeah. So my new prediction is, I guess, that maybe Akasha arrives in like episode 5, and then that gives us a couple episodes for whatever unfolds from there. That
sounds fun.
Again, very Loki-esque.
All right, so Daniel claims that some, quote, Hollywood asshole is behind the Lestat doc.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to understand that, or are we meant to understand just by like the way that Real Rashid shows up at the concert and stuff like that?
Right.
And they say they have Daniel on retainer.
Yes.
Are we meant to understand that it's actually a telemasca?
Right, because he introduces them as his producers.
Yeah. So this documentary is a telemasca produced documentary. Is that your understanding?
I think so.
I think so too.
But always open to the possibility of another reveal beyond
this
that.
is not in the show. The book. I don't know the answer. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
Fathers and daughters. So we get this sort of like back and forth about like Daniel and his. He talks about his unusual connection to Armand,
right,
and his inability to connect to his human daughters. Louis lies so blatantly into Daniel here when he's like, "Oh, that's weird. No, that's not normal. That's completely weird."
Sounds weird was so funny.
We have seen in season 1, like Louis and Lestat's heartbeats synchronizing. We have seen in the season 1 finale when they have that the like costume ball New Orleans dance, and the two of them are dancing, and everyone in the room goes away, and it's just Louis and Lestat dancing alone in the room, and then everyone comes back in one of those great like movie magic moments.
Yeah, basically exactly what
literally what Daniel is describing here, and Louis like, I don't know, it sounds weird, man.
Sounds weird.
So weird. Where's Armand? When do you want to see him?
Immediately.
Do you miss him?
Yeah,
Asad.
I do. I
join
miss
us.
him. Yeah. I felt so deeply in love with that character
really
in season 2. So, God, yeah.
And then Louis tells a story about seeing a girl who looks like Claudia.
Ugh, this was sad.
Really devastating.
Jeez, yeah.
Delaney, we await your arrival. I mean, I have to imagine that this is how they're using Delaney this season, is this like girl that he saw in New York. Do you think that's the case, or is it just going to be like flashback, or what do you think?
I guess given the Bruce killer end of this episode, propelling Louis into this Talamasca task because of this connection to Claudia, as we'll go through. There could be, through more of that history in general. I thought that Chase the Ghost, I guess, was just like so heartbreaking and sad. And like, in some respects, like all of these characters are doing a version of that. And then the question becomes, can that ghost become like, take corporeal form for you again, right? Like, is that a possible thing?
In this supernatural world. And is that a healthy thing?
To
chase?
Yeah.
And
to always be like seeking that version of your past again. Yeah, boy, that was sad.
We're gonna do all of this Louis stuff before we end with Baudelaire. But here comes Raglan and Real Rashid, and I just want to shout out Justin Kirk's completely bonkers accent.
It's insane.
Is it fair for me to praise it when I just sort of like lit Jennifer Ely's accent on fire? Maybe not, but he's intentionally trying to do something very weird here. And we could talk about why maybe a bit more in the book spoiler section. But he's trying to do a sort of like mid-Atlantic via something else accent. That is what he is going for here. It is, when he says Rashid, really funny, really good. Here's the funniest thing that book readers responded to in this scene. And I'll get into a bit more of what it means in the book spoiler section. But they just offhandedly mentioned that Louis killed a Talamasca agent named David Talbot in Dubai. He killed 31 people. The season one ends with this sort of like, come and fucking get me moment from Louis. And we find out that he killed 31 people, 32 including David Talbot. David Talbot is like a significant character inside of the Anne Rice books, but a largely unpopular character.
Oh, interesting.
And so...
Okay. Got it.
They're going to have to do, if they get more seasons, they're going to have to do some character shuffling in order to like fill the hole that they've just created. But they have just decided to kill a major character off screen in this offhanded way. Jacob Anderson in the official podcast is like, I hate that guy. I've always hated that guy. I got really excited that not only does he die off screen so we don't have to deal with him, but like I got to do it. Like sounds great. So R.I.P. David Talbot. Really
intriguing.
Really wild adaptive choice here. I'm pretty into it. And then we get this Bruce Killer stuff. How do you feel about this?
Good. I mean, this has been a big kind of open source of story and also source of wounds and division and distance between the characters. This horrific source of trauma for Claudia, who was out on a journey of exploration and discovery and going to new places and trying to enjoy life, and was taken prisoner, captive by this man who then tormented her and preyed upon her. And the pain and torment that she carried with her moving forward from this, like,
was so bad that Louis had to like redact it from the story, like from her journals, because like he didn't want anyone to know this thing happened to her.
So I mean, it makes sense that this would be something that the show returned to. I think Louis's feelings about Claudia and desire to find a way for like this connection and presence to be restored. I think like it feels, I mean, I assume this is all true, that the Talamasca is like, this is, we had that killer tattoo on the back of Baby Jenks's
neck.
Oracle Baby Jenks's neck last week. So there's maybe the practical thing that they need this to be done and accounted for, but also like to be able to say to Louis in a way that they know will incite a response. Like, you're not going to let this guy go.
So I understand, like, why have Louis do it instead of them cleaning up, and the explanation that Raglan gives, and again, we don't necessarily need to believe him, but the explanation he gives is like, we do cleanup. We would not do anything this direct. Basically, we need to like manipulate you into doing it, and then we can like help clean it up, but we can't have our hands as dirty as they would need to be in order to take care of this problem directly ourselves. So it seems very clear that they've got Louis on the hook for this. And again, this is a show invented sort of storyline for Louis to keep him present here.
Got it. And then, so then one of the things that's interesting to me about that as a way to keep Louis like really centered in the story is then what is the Lestat connection to this? Because, we have, as we've mentioned already, the reminder that Louis doesn't know about Gabriella, right? So there's a truth kept on Lestat's side. But then there's also like, what does Gabriella know about Louis? And she's on a real jealousy-driven fact-finding mission inside of this episode. And one of the things that she says to Lestat toward the end is like, I see why you gave him a daughter, right? And then took her back. And that was the only line.
You, lady.
Yeah, even the incest where he's like, we should make a pact. But then he's like, later, when she's slicing his neck and drinking, we rode the edges of our pact. He's like, we have boundaries, but not really. This is the tripwire that he's like, and we were having such a good night. And the mood and the tone changes completely.
It goes icy on her.
There's Louis, but also Claudia and what Claudia means to their family, but to Louis specifically because of how much Louis means to Lestat. And what Claudia means to Lestat also, obviously, that was very complicated and messy. But like, so what is Lestat going to do?
About Bruce and Killer and
about
Claudia.
Bruce.
Yeah.
And if Louis ends up in some sort of sticky, messy circumstance in pursuit of that vengeance, what will Gabriella do about that? Like, hey, pay attention to me, not him, and not that.
Yeah.
That feels, I wonder how much of the plot will orient around that. And
I mean, anything that can put the two of them in a scene together, I'm in favor of, as you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And there's also just like the overall, like, what is happening with that coven, right? Like, how much power do they hold? Like, not just Bruce specifically, but...
So that's the Fang Gang, right?
Yeah, yes.
The Tooth Team.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
They've got a farm.
Yeah, and we talked about, like, the power
outage.
They're doing
fentanyl distribution.
That was
the
harrowing.
power outage. What is that about?
Yeah.
All right. Anyone fancy Italian? Let's wrap it up here. Along with this musical performance of Baudelaire, which we'll talk about in a second, we get a flashback to Lestat turning Gabriella, fighting with Nikki, Gabriella taking to vampirism with gusto, and then the two of them slaughtering the family together, which as you noted earlier, this doesn't happen in the book. He does not kill his family. She does not kill his family. He actually takes care of his family after he becomes, like, he doesn't like them. He likes his nieces and nephews, but he doesn't like his brother and his dad, but he takes care of them financially after he is turned into a vampire. And so this is a huge R.I.P. David Talbot, and also Lestat and his mom killed their shitty family. I don't know. In what way is that an interesting change to you? To me, I will say, because again, he feels like a reluctant part, not totally reluctant, right? He pulls a heart out of the chest of
he does. Yeah,
one of them. But it seems like something Gabriella like goaded him into.
Yeah, she's like, we can get back there in an hour,
and he feels, uncomfortable with it. And something I did like is like they're hiding in those. Would you call it a crypt? Is it a tomb? I guess a tomb.
Yeah, tomb.
As you see them a lot on Buffy Vampire Slayer, something that is like a big cement coffin that you put another coffin in. But they're hiding in there. But those, like, that's one of the first shots of the episode is those. Yeah. Because he describes his dead siblings as garden gnomes outside of the manor. But like those cement or stone coffin tombs are there. And that's where they are at the end of the episode. And I thought that was like a cool little circle back.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like this idea that this is like a gift he gave her, not necessarily the choice he would have made.
Yeah.
On his own. And then what else is he willing to do for her, for other people to the
things we do for love, as Jamie Lannister might say. All right. So Lestat sings the second song of the night. Mm-hmm. It's Baudelaire. It's Baudelaire time. Baudelaire already got a mention in the auction.
Right. A song cycle set to the poetry of Baudelaire. That was the episode 1. So 2 episodes, 2 mentions.
Why Baudelaire? My guess is that he wrote, it's because, again, this is a word search for Baudelaire inside of Anne Rice. I didn't find anything. So this is a show invention, right? So is it because he wrote poems like Le Vampire and the Metamorphosis of the Vampire? And I read those poems. And in those poems, the vampire is usually a metaphor for like addiction and self-destruction and all this sort of stuff like that. So he was like, the vampire symbol is something that Baudelaire was interested in. He's an early modernist, a lot of symbolistic language. This poem that they set to this tune, written by Daniel Hart, the words are Baudelaire's, and it's from the poem Fountain of Blood, Le Fontaine de Sang. And it's the same tune that he was playing over the iPad to Louis in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if in the lyrics of Why Do I Have to Feel, the lyrics when he says, I want to write you the prettiest song in the world, but I got distracted. Like, is this what he means? I was trying to write you this beautiful Baudelaire song or a beautiful song, you know, but then the fucking book came out and I got distracted. Daniel Hart in an interview said, like, we wanted to show music that would come from his pre-rock and roll era, more like an art song or a chamber song for the 19th century. I really enjoyed writing it.
Yeah.
There are many translations of this poem, but I went with the Edna St. Vincent Millay, shout out lesbians, translation. I'm going to read it. It seems to me sometimes my blood is bubbling out as fountains do in rhythmic sobs. I feel it spout and lapse. I hear it plainly. It makes a murmuring sound. But from what wound it wells so far I have not found. As blood runs in the lists round tumbled armored bones, it soaks the city, islanding the paving stones. Everything thirsty leans to lap it with stretched head. Trees suck it up, it stains their trunks and branches red. I turn to wine for respite. I drink, and I drink deep. Just for one day, neither to see nor hear. Wine only renders sharper the frantic eye and ear. In terror I cry to love, oh, put my mind to sleep. But love for me is only a mattress where I shrink on needles and my blood is given to whores to drink. So a lot of blood stuff.
Yes, quite.
Very vampire.
Yeah.
Here's my like a few things that I want to call out from this. In every translation of this poem, the bottom line is he's bleeding freely, but he cannot find the source of the blood. Where is the wound on my body? I cannot find it. So if you can't find the wound, you can't, stamp the flow of blood. That's part of it. But also like Lestat has not done the work to the psychological work, the therapeutic work to figure out what the original wound is here.
Right.
I'd say Gabrielle personally, but
seems like
your
a
mileage
strong
may
candidate,
vary.
yeah.
At the end of the day, everything thirsty leans to lap it with stretched head. The blood that he is, his vampire feelings are so big that the blood just like is flooding the city, right? With his blood, with his wound. Everything thirsty leans to lap it up. Trees, in some translations, cattle, like whatever the case may be. This idea of like, as an artist, your pain becomes art that other people feed on, right? So as a songwriter, let's say you put your pain into the lyrics and then, a crowd of 1,000 people or so in Toledo are like, yeah, sing me about your heartbreak. They're just like greedily lapping it up. So your pain becomes food for other people to consume. Yeah. This idea of like, of wine for respite, one day, neither to see nor hear. So numbing it doesn't work, right? Does not help. And then love, trying to sort of like immerse yourself inside of love, and maybe the love will feel, as the Oracle Baby Jenks, like, does that top up your heart? Right. These various like love stories that you've created for yourself with Nikki, with Louis, etc. And the answer is, to Baudelaire at least, no.
Right.
Bed of needles, my blood is given to horse to drink. Not great. Love's not the answer. Wine's not the answer. I'm bleeding profusely and I don't know what the wound is. And that's the poem, the lyrics that he has put to this song here.
Love it.
Anything you want to say about Baudelaire?
I think you covered it. I have nothing to add.
We did it. Poetry Corner.
Beautiful.
There. Thanks for the Baudelaire. Book spoilers?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so as you mentioned, R.I.P. David Talbot. We did get an email about this. Actually, our emailers did not mention David Talbot, but I now understand this is who they were talking about, right? So Jessica wrote in to say, I want to clarify, in the great body swap thing that we're talking about, Lestat does get his body back from Raglan James after they swap, but James then swaps with a friend of Lestat's who has not yet been introduced in the show. This is David Talbot. that person in James's body becomes a vampire. But Lestat does get to be himself again. But then again, they could change this and use his body double, or it could be a way for quote unquote Lestat to publicly be killed and die.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to see where they go from there. I don't know how to, in my understanding of this shell game that is the body swap.
Yeah.
I don't know who to put in David Talbot's place. David Talbot, who was an elderly human who Lestat eventually turns into a vampire in Raglan James's body. So like, who worked for the Telemasca and is a friend of Lestat's. So is it like Daniel, an older man who was already a vampire, but like an older man, blah, blah, blah. Is it Louis somehow? Or is it someone else they have yet? Is it Rashid? Is it like, who is it going to be? Or are they even going to do it? I don't know. But like, it feels like they want to do the body swap since they seem like they've already teased that in the auction scene at the beginning of episode 1. But the David Talbot problem creates a real hole inside of this whole equation that I don't know how they plan to. I don't have a clear understanding of who they could swap in for him. But obviously they want to swap in a character they already have to make it all feel like a tighter story. Potential incorporation of the Anne Rice 2000 book Merrick with this Claudia plot in which Louis resurrects Claudia to find closure.
Okay. Yeah.
So is that what they're doing here with this waitress that he sees in New York?
Right.
Is she a resurrected Claudia, or is she a vessel that they could put a resurrected Claudia into, or like what are they going to do? But like that is a plot line of a later Anne Rice book. I don't know the answer. But,
Interesting.
All right. The Great Conversion. We already talked about this. As you mentioned, it's not. I mean, do you want more specifics of this? Of slightly more specifics?
Sure. Yeah.
The Great Conversion is more vampires than humans, I believe. So like that's the idea. Is like let's change the percentage. And we're going to keep the humans around so we can feed on them. But let's become the dominant population of the world.
Okay. Makes sense.
Devil's Minion is a chapter inside of The Queen of the Damned that is all about Daniel and Armand. And oh, yeah, baby, their love story. I feel like, this is so present here in Daniel's like discomfort in talking about Armand. And it's just sort of like, I feel him even when he's not here. And I kind of love that they're doing this because of the time jump shenanigans that they did in season 1, like Daniel Malloy is a young man in the books.
Right.
So the fact that they're like, Daniel Malloy is a much older man played by Eric Bogosian, but I think they're still going to do this Armand Daniel love story thing.
Fantastic.
Fucked up. And like, if you think about that and you go back to that episode in season 2 that we love, it's just like all this, is that what makes you fascinating? Is that what makes you fascinating?
God,
like,
I loved that.
Really excited. And then body swapping as an explanation for Raglan's bizarre accent. Tale of the Body Thief is not his first rodeo at body swapping. He's been like doing this. So like, how old is he? I don't know the answer, but like he's been sort of body hopping already. So like, again, this is what I'm talking about. If you've lived for centuries, your accent should be weird,
For sure, yeah.
Or non-existent,
right. Completely blank or just nuts.
Or just nuts. And then Justin Kirk has gone for nuts. And I'm a big fan of it personally. But
Great stuff.
Anything else you want to talk about here? Any questions you might have that I might be able to answer or not?
I guess on the Claudia front, like, so what are you hoping for in terms of just, I guess, volume for that storyline?
It depends if Lestat is also involved.
Yeah.
If it's just like a side plot, I'm just kind of traumatized from this last season of Euphoria where people felt like they were inside plots that did not loop back to the main story and just sort of like a way to keep someone here even though we don't have a story for them.
Yeah.
Do you know? So, but by dint of it being Claudia, it is by nature then like more naturally connected to the story. I really like Delaney's performance as Claudia.
Same.
So like if she's playing a different person, that's going to be kind of fun, I think.
Right.
And I don't expect it will take up more than like a couple episodes inside of this season would be my guess.
Right.
But I would love for it to be an excuse to put Louis and Lestat together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I would always prefer that.
Same. Great. Let's do it.
That is it for the Vampire Lestat episode 2. Thank you to Jacob Cornett, Carlos Chiriboga, Scott Lee, Arjuna Ramgopowell, Jomi Adeniran, our entire band.
That's right.
That we would talk it through with. And the thing I love about Lestat is that he really did talk it through with them.
That guy loves a meeting.
Yeah. I mean, the band performed together after all was said and done. We will be back with The Dark Knight Rises
That's right.
very soon.
Yes.
And then House of the Dragon is the next time you'll hear from us.
Lestat episode 3.
hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com.
Yes.
If you want to email us your thoughts and feelings and book reader insights, we would love to hear them. Your Baudelaire interpretations, anything else. And we'll see you soon. Bye.